ladies and gentlemen, to Max Sports and MaxSportsOnline.com. Welcome to our worldwide audience viewing on the internet. And I am Damian Nelson, sitting alongside a great individual with a lovely red shirt. It doesn't work so well with this one. We'll talk about him in a minute. Francis Cosentino. Frank, welcome to Max.
Welcome all, especially those who know.
And filling in for a traveling meathead this week is none other than Danny Michael McGinn. Danny McGinn, welcome back to Max Sports. Actually, this is your first appearance on Max Sports. However, it's all the same.
Well, clearly, Mr. Nelson, Damien Nelson, and Frank.
Here we go.
Danny McGinn, Danaconda is growing. And
wow.
Yes, to the
we
max.
did talk about the dicks being released last week from WWE.
Yes, we did. But one thing's for sure. We're back, Max Sports. Take to the max.
Worldwide audience right now, Daniel, we've grown quite a bit.
Yes.
Maybe a little more so than the Danaconda. But be that as it may, tell our viewers at home in Milwaukee who may have forgotten you and our viewers across the world on the internet why you're here, what it is you do. What it is that you do here, as they would say in Office Space.
What it is that I do here? Well, Damien Nelson, that's a good question, quite frankly. And Damien, I'm glad you asked. I'm here to give the fans' perspective, the people's perspective, what the people on the streets are saying. Not the guy in the corner, not the girl in the corner, but the people on the streets, what they're thinking, just to give a little outside-the-box view, if you will, and wrestling analysis, and that's what I do.
And you've been to, we'll talk about the Hall of Fame induction ceremony later, but you've been to the home of a certain Canadian hero.
Yes, truly a hero. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
All right, let's go to our big story this week, ladies and gentlemen. What the World Wrestling Entertainment announces a wellness program. It's like a PR campaign, if you will. Not only is it a drug abuse assistance program, but it's also a health program, a general wellness program from World Wrestling Entertainment. Basically, the things they're going to cover are drug use in general. Now, we'll talk about the effectiveness of the program as it is outlined. Firstly, it is a random drug test, which means WWE, whoever, can pick and choose who gets put up for the random drug testing, which right away takes away a little bit of the legitimacy of the program. However, we'll see. Give it a fair shot, and we'll see what happens with the first test, which obviously we won't know who they are until there's a problem. Now, when there is a problem, here are the disciplinary steps that World Wrestling Entertainment has chosen to take. Step 1, a 30-day non-paid suspension, which for a wrestler is a vacation. Step 2 is a 60-day non-paid suspension or entrance into a rehab clinic. Either way, the time in rehab or the time away from the ring is non-paid. Now, this is for all WWE employees as well, not just the performers. Strike 3 equals a termination of employment. Now, I open it up to you guys. What impact will this have on WWE wrestlers in general? It's something we knew was coming, but what impact will it actually have on the organization? Especially knowing that for the first test that anybody takes, doesn't matter, because if there is drugs or what have you found in the first test, it's considered your baseline test, and the only thing you know is going to happen is that you're going to be tested again later on. But if you're on drugs, what have you, steroids, whatever, that first time doesn't matter. It's literally not even a slap on the wrist. So what impact will it have, if any?
Basically, first they have to define what will fall under a drug. Will it be marijuana? Will it be the illegal drugs that are out there?
They have said that it will be any performance-enhancing drugs or drugs to cover up performance-enhancing drugs. Because apparently nowadays, instead of just, if you test positive for steroids or whatever, you could also mask that with certain other drugs, but you could also cover that up with certain other drugs. So if you find a drug to cover it up with, the assumption is made then that you're on steroids or what have you.
It's you welcome, I guess, some type of testing for obvious reasons. One, the health of your stars. Mm-hmm. If they do see someone that is taking something that could hurt them financially, not only the wrestler but the organization, obviously get this person some help. But if it's a simple drug that really doesn't, ruin your in-ring performance,
like, I done gave up that crack cocaine.
Maybe a little of that, a little Mary Jane, never hurt anybody. But
crack's a very powerful drug. Rick James. Crack's a very powerful drug.
That's true. It's what risks is the WWE going to take if, as an example, Triple H, right before a
Amazing
WrestleMania.
example. And talking points we'll talk about. We had a viewer submit some questions about.
You know, would a 30-day suspension for maybe your biggest moneymaker? You know, it looks good, you know, from a PR standpoint, but you know, if you're promising a Triple H Cena match right before WrestleMania, and whoops, you know, he's fallen under.
Well, you know what you do? You know how you fix that? Random testing, 30-day suspension. You do, if WrestleMania is on April 2, you're doing your next set of randoms on April 3.
Right. There's ways to get around it. It's a good PR move, but really, would it really work? And it's for the health of the wrestlers, and I hope that's what they're promising.
Daniel.
I certainly don't want to step on any toes, gentlemen, but I would have to certainly agree. That's one of the great things that's going on with the wellness program. Is they're actually they're announcing, they're implementing it, coming up with it, so it's very conclusive. We finally have this test going on and building around, giving the wrestlers advance notice. And we've had notice Gene Snitsky has no more zits on his back, perhaps from no more testosterone intake.
When's the last time you've seen Gene Snitsky?
Oh, I've seen him, but he's got a little bit smaller though. He's got a little bit smaller, not like me. But anyways, but the fact is, I think it's good that they're actually letting the wrestlers know so they can prepare. And obviously the levels have been going down. Some of the wrestlers have been getting smaller, and by waiting until after WrestleMania, then we don't have to worry about losing the big marquee performers, if you will.
They did at the Super Show last Monday in Washington, D.C., call all the wrestlers, even if they weren't to be used on the card. Everybody was there to advantage the opportunity. A couple of wrestlers were not there, but took advantage of the opportunity to outline the program and the outside companies that will be handling both aspects of the program, the wellness and the drug abuse aspect of the program, to all the wrestlers and all the athletes. I think both of you make phenomenal points. Does it really apply to everybody? Because they had a drug testing policy before, and the big guys never took the tests. Right. Because it was random, but it was subjectively random, and only certain people were subject to the testing. So it's going to be interesting to see. As you say, Frank, it's good as a PR move, but like Major League Baseball, the federal government even getting involved with that. Obviously, it's a sport, but it's a private business at the same time. So, did some of that lead into this decision by WWE to create this wellness focus that they have now?
Right. There could be the people out there, and it's legitimate. Come on, it's a joke. They're not going to test everyone. The test may be just pee in this cup and not do anything about it. And it's
maybe Boogeyman will drink it.
Yeah, and it's just to get certain organizations or maybe the federal government off their back. We're doing a program here, so leave us alone.
And in a lot of states, they are regulated by not necessarily the federal government, but by the state athletic commissions. I think Jersey was one of those. It was a tax issue too, but I think a while ago Jersey was one of those states where, you had to prove certain things in order to perform in the state. And what did WWE do? They just wouldn't go anymore. I think Portland, Oregon is still one of those areas where, you don't see WWE events because of the strict rules that the state athletic commission has.
They also get a little leniency in a way because as Major League Baseball and all the major sports, there's not season ticket holders that are calling the organization saying, hey, come on, that guy should be tested and so on and so forth. This is a product where fans literally, you want to buy it or you don't. There's not companies purchasing large blocks of tickets for, wrestling events. So you won't get the public outcry from it. You may get a federal outcry, but you can get around with it because this is more of an entertainment product.
Vince McMahon did defeat the federal government. He said that
the
night he took over WCW.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said that.
Papa don't preach, but I have one thing to say. I think this is going to be a great program. I think it's a good thing. And,
what we didn't tell you about Danny is he's one of the most random people that we've ever met here in this program.
But I think it's a great thing before the government would get on their toes. And as far as, there's different things people are talking about, what are they going to test for? Different things like HGH, human growth hormone. The good thing is, after this wellness test, only HGH we're going to see, my man, is our Milwaukeean, Candice Michelle. Yeah, there's our new definition of HGH. Human growth hormone. Come on, Captain. Come on.
Maybe you're taking something.
And she's going to be at the Admirals game this Saturday. Candice Michelle is signing off.
She actually was at the Admirals game last Friday.
Oh.
I was watching at home in Milwaukee.
Well, God.
Tape delayed on the East Coast, East Bank of Lake Michigan. But anyway, Triple H, we had a viewer submit a question about how obviously different Triple H looks from his recent times in WWE. Now, Triple H, one of the wrestlers who certainly had one of the most defined physiques and one of the most impressive physical specimens, call it 2002, 2003, and since the marriage and the conception, it's all been downhill. Triple H remaining thick, yet not so defined. In this viewer's mind, it's obvious that Triple H is abusing steroids. Now, we're not alleging that. In this viewer's mind, it was obvious to him that Triple H is abusing steroids. Now, with what you know, Danny, I think you're a lot closer to the issue than, not that you've done steroids, but HGH, of course, but I think you're a lot closer to the issue than us. Is it a valid question, Triple H abusing performance-enhancing drugs?
I don't think at this point it really matters. With the wellness program being implemented and such, I think after WrestleMania, I think then it will be an issue. But right now, I think like they're getting ready to test the levels and see where they're at. And as long as there's significant, it's going, the levels are going down, showing significant improvement. Everything's
Well,
going to be...
metabolism is obviously different for everyone. But if you remember The Rock in his first couple of years,
Before the breast enhancement?
he was a pretty thick guy.
Yes.
You know? And then, as I believe he was doing more cardio, because he knew that, wait a minute, I may have a film career here. He thinned out, still had the physique, but, you know, it kind of was different than what Triple H did.
And look back when steroids were rampant in wrestling. Your Hogan, your Warrior, your even Ravishing Rick Rude, everybody had that Triple H thickness, but not the definition. What happened after the steroid trial? Hogan went from 303 to 297 and became defined as far as his physique went. So that's a valid point that the viewer raises, but obviously no one can prove it but the people doing it and the testing facility. As far as results, obviously they won't be posted online, but just as we saw what happened with Eugene back over in the UK when he had to go to the emergency room, it was found that he was abusing painkillers, and was released and brought back to WWE. So, you know, it can work, and it can be done, and it can happen. The best part of the program is the actual wellness part of the program, which is cardiovascular testing for the athletes, which will be facilitated by a different organization than that ones that are doing drugs, I believe, based out of Nashville, Tennessee. But when you look at Eddie Guerrero and passing due to a cardiovascular issue as a result of past drug use and past vices, what impact will that have on the industry as a whole? When you look at your Visceras, when you look at your Big Shows, and when you look at, you know, Yokozuna, who also passed due to a heart issue, he went from 505 to 641 and just ballooned up. It gets to a point where it's not healthy anymore. What impact will that have on the big guys, which are fewer and further between nowadays in wrestling?
Well, that's actually a great question, because obviously these guys, some of you really can't do anything about. Big Show is a big guy. You know, he could lose a lot of weight, but
And he's gone up and down, and
I guess they brought him down to OVW a few years ago because of the weight issue. Same thing with Mark Henry. Some of these guys, as in the NFL athletes that are defensive linemen, they're just big. You know, they eat a lot.
big boned.
And they're big. You know, and when they do lose weight, it's because some of it is they're just not working out anymore. Mm-hmm. Now they could, you know, again, that goes back to cardio. You can keep as much, but some of these guys that are just huge, they're huge. There's nothing you can do about it. So I also think that
I've heard I'm huge. You may not believe this, gentlemen.
I'm not going to comment on that. What's interesting is Vince McMahon can take this and say, you know, if like Eugene or someone says, listen, I think so-and-so has a problem. Well, this could be a voluntary program where I need help. Where Vince McMahon could say he could have gotten the help if he wanted to, because we have this program. You know, he could spin this so many ways.
I think they did actually help Yokozuna.
Yes.
Towards the end, I believe he was.
Vince McMahon will always look good having this type of program.
And one of the things that this whole wellness program has led me to believe in, with certain performers having to get smaller, different conditioning, different ways of defining yourself as a marketable athlete, I think that is where this is going. Is clearly we're seeing now. I'm jumping brands here, gentlemen, but I think NWA, TNA, a lot of their performers are smaller. They're athletic, very really good specimens as far as like athletes and such concerned. However, they're not that big as perhaps characteristically WWE performers have been. And with that being said, I have a feeling that by 2010, the style of wrestling that we see, perhaps, and performers as well in TNA Impact, that's the WWE's going to have to go that route. We have those quick snap moves and such because these big, huge guys that are have been taking whatever supplements,
Or
legal
none.
or what have
Because
you.
some people don't need them.
I think they just won't be able to market those kind of guys anymore because they're not, because of the implementation of the wellness program.
Well, let me ask you, Scott Steiner.
Big Papa Pump, the pose.
Do you think he was?
Pump being the key word there, folks.
Would a program like this, if he was still wrestling in WWE, there'd be people saying, "Well, wait a minute, you got to be telling me that he hasn't been tested?"
Yes.
And I guess that's where it would hurt.
And there was a off subject but on subject. There was a special on one of the learning channels recently about the guy with the biggest arms in the world. He'd taken so many steroids and injected so many steroids, his biceps were literally the size of a small person. And it got so bad that one of his biceps ruptured. And what the point you're driving at, Frank, from what I think is, it's obvious when someone's abusing.
Right.
And many times in the past, it would seem as if wrestling organizations in general have turned a blind eye. And now, as you said, Frank, WWE is stepping up to the plate, if you will, and making an industry standard. Now, just like this all happened before, folks. I mean, this all was done before. WWE instituted drug testing years upon years ago, after, I believe, the steroid trial in the early 90s.
But
We'll have to see what happens.
I don't think it's thorough though as they're doing now in 2006.
The information was not as public.
Okay.
I think that they've got an obligation, or feel they have an obligation this time, to make the information public to legitimize the whole thing, I guess.
And it's to stop the whistleblowers out there saying, "Come on,
Spirit Squad?
Yeah, yeah, they're all on steroids. It's for those guys just to, listen, Group A, we're doing this. So
This is what I'm saying though, guys. WWE is going to have to go to the style of wrestling that we're seeing in TNA Impact. They'll have no choice because there's no longer the days of the big, huge, muscular guys from the 1980s. It's 2006 by
there's
2000.
masters.
The guy, there's a guy, he's gotten smaller. And that's what I'm saying.
I don't know if he's gotten smaller.
Funny, you both talk about those 2 points. We'll talk about that stuff in talking points. But we'll end the wrestling news segment this week with asking you to solicit your feedback on the WWE Wellness Program. We want to know what you think, folks. Hit us up on the message board at nextsportsonline.com or send us an email, as many of you have so easily done over the last few weeks.